in the air if you don't really care. 2 hands in the air if you don't really care. It's like that sometimes, I mean ridiculous. It's like that sometimes, it's shit ridiculous.
Sean Carter, Jay-Z, if you'd like. It's very interesting because
people really think that we're way closer to
and that's what, let's touch on that. What is the level of closeness you have? I mean, are you guys like,
texting.
Hey, you're on texting level, so it's not like come over my.
Usually email. I don't really text too tough. Email literally, but text. It's not iChat. Whatever you kids do, the iChat.
Okay.
Like we're really, you email.
Your email. So you're on the email level.
Yes.
I mean, do you think we'll ever go to the come chill at my house? What are you doing? What's up? Have you ever been on that?
It's hard because I'm still media. He's a little hesitant. I mean, he's a private person. Yes, I think we all seen that.
Yes,
exactly. That's kind of what it is. I think we always kind of, we go near the border of that.
So would you give up your career to be that friendly with him?
No.
In the sense of like, he's like, I'm gonna put you.
He's not trying to hire me. People, they don't want me to work for them. Like they just think that Elliott's talented enough to run Rock Nation,
exactly,
or to run a website. I didn't get the call to launch Life and Times, his website.
Right.
I didn't get the call to do that. Now you ask yourself why. If Elliott's cool with this guy,
radar.
No, but I can still do that. Or get somebody to do that. Or be involved in the business of launching it, or be a consultant to that.
So basically, you kind of feel some ways that you weren't getting that call.
I'm competitive.
You are competitive.
But the reality also is that they don't view people that even if artists that I'm cool with, at the end of the day, they know I can write something that can hurt their feelings, or make them pissed off, or do something that they feel like is crossing the line. So I feel like no matter how cool I get with an artist, there's always that at the end of the day.
Right.
It never goes away.
So,
because I think people think I'm unpredictable. Like I may wake up tomorrow and I may just clown them, and then it's just like, that was your man. I thought that was your man. So,
right. And I mean, I heard he's a little sensitive or emotional at times, but he's very private about it.
He's actually more thick-skinned than most. Because you got to think, he's the type that will say this, like, it's not like when Beanie Siegel was going at dude for like a year and a half, that he would send a call like, can you take down the Beanie Siegel's, dissing me, diss 47. He wouldn't make that call. I think when it comes to him, he may be sensitive about something, but I don't think he's sensitive. Like if you had to worry about every little thing that's a misinformation about Watch the Throne, or everything that gets published, it'd be maddening. So I think a lot of times he ignores it or doesn't acknowledge it, even if he knows it's wrong out there.
Right.
Because he doesn't think that he's above the tit for tat of it, of correcting everybody. Watch the Throne doesn't come out July 4th. It comes out here. We're working on it. Like he's gonna let that rumor spill out. So in some ways he's more thicker skinned because he lets the misinformation or the rumors or the hearsay play out a little bit more.
The thought, I'm sure the common thought is, like, as you mentioned, that you guys are so cool that you get all the exclusives. Like, when he's sleeping, he'll probably text you in the middle of the night or something. Like, it's so crazy.
The track record shows that I don't, though.
Well, I mean, that's the assumption.
I wish that all things Watch the Throne, you could go to Rap Radar and we'd be the authority. I don't know when Watch the Throne's coming out.
Right.
Everybody keeps doing posts where they say their sources say this and blah, blah. And Rap Radar runs that, credits them, and puts a big question mark with it, because I don't know.
Unauthorized biography of Jay-Z, right? It was called Soul of a Hustler.
Originally.
I don't think it had it. It was a working title.
That's what the contract says.
Right, that's what the contract said. So, essentially...
Well, that's how we got cool, somewhat. Or, no, we got cool because of AG, XXL cover came out. No, actually, first thing happened was Kingdom Come. I interviewed him for Kingdom Come album for XXL. That's the first time I ever interviewed him. The first time we had ever really done business together in that way. And then around the same time, I had pitched the idea this unauthorized book. I did the interview with him, and I came away from the interview feeling like I could really do this. Like I get him. Like I get it. I had an idea what I could do the book. After interviewing him for 2 hours, I feel like I understand him enough that I could tell the story, be fair to him. Cover the Dame stuff. It's not one-sided. I can do blah, blah, blah. So then he found out I signed this deal. He felt like I was funny style. Why didn't I tell him? How do I do this without him? So it caused a lot of tension. But then we go on doing business with XXL. He becomes the president of Def Jam. We still got to do business with each other somewhat. And then when American Gangster came out, then he sent me a note, and that's when I got his direct BlackBerry. So then we started doing it directly. But yeah, the whole idea was it was an unauthorized book, because my thing is, if I'm going to tell a Jay-Z story, I'm not just going to tell it from the Jay-Z aspect. I got to talk to people that are no longer in business with him, and it's got to be balanced. And that's
of course. I mean, that's the objectivity.
But that's what's hard to do about it, because to a certain extent, to me, the people that are in the outs with Jay-Z, and most of them would go back to Jay-Z if the circumstances were correct. So you have to take some of what they say with a
little bit of bias.
A little bit of bias, or a little bit of taste of bitterness, or a little bit of taste of feeling upset that they're no longer with this guy. Not that this guy does nothing but all right, because he could be real callous and do fucked up things.
I mean, that was
anybody else.
Yeah, that's
so. But the reality is that if you have all these like other outside sources that are more, let's say, the negative sources, and you have the positive sources that are kind of scared to say anything too crazy because of whatever, it's a very complex work to put together.
So what are your thoughts now? I mean, putting all that energy and time and trying to
that's what turned me off about it, which is why I stopped doing it, because I feel like books are thankless in some sense.
So it was a kind of your own decision to halt that.
Well, I went through a lot of different. It was like a detox thing. There was times when I really was going to make the album. I had like 3 chapters done. Yeah, I can't say it was ever planned out one way. There were times when I was trying to get him to agree to give me some type of authorization with it. When we had those talks, there was times when I was just like F him and I'm just going to write whatever I want and be damn him. Or I had a great chapter that I thought this was the opener. So. And then at a certain point, I just started feeling more and more like I just really don't want to do this book anymore.
So what are your thoughts on Decoded?
I thought it was good, but I thought it would be better if it's always it's his perspective on everything. You know, it's his. Him telling his story has a great appeal, but I think that it has to also have a better to make the great book that I think can be created. It has to have a little of both. But he's so good at getting what he wants and being powerful, and if he's not in control of it, he's not cooperative with it, and the people in his inner circle aren't cooperative with it, so it's a hard thing to do. I mean, that other white dude wrote an unauthorized book, and it kind of came and went, because a lot of it, you know, the thing about Jay is a lot of the information is out there, but, you know, it's really about someone that's going to tackle the whole thing with real perspective of it, you know what I mean, because the facts are there. Right. You know, he goes on vacation, Dame hires Cameron. He's mad, like tension starts. It's all out there. Like there's not like there's some secrets, but a lot of the basics of a great story are out there. We know when he got married, we know who he got married with, we know when Rockefeller folded, we know that they sat down, their final meeting was in Cipriani's, him and Dame, and it was effed up and they left. Like, all that stuff's out there, but you know, at the end of the day, someone's gonna have to put his story in good context. I thought Decoded was good because it was Jay, with Dream's assistant, and Dream was good at helping him put his thoughts together and create that narrative. But I think that I want someone unauthorized with
like Elliott Wilson, perhaps.
Eventually.
There may have been some questioning of the relevancy of certain Caucasian rappers at that particular time, and now there seems to be such an overall embracement of this. You know, obviously Eminem we're talking about, and it's just kind of like talk about that transition of exactly, you know, where you were.
It was a unique situation because XXL, before I was there, took an adversarial stance against Eminem. Like, they were very weary of him as he came out.
And why was that? Why? Can you give us
the idea there was a lot of industry hype behind him at the time. So there's a lot of like, we all felt burned by Vanilla Ice. Vanilla Ice, Ice Ice Baby's a very catchy
right. Rip Run Then We Cool or whatever.
Yeah, but then he lied about his past. He started acting in a disrespectful way. We had MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice at the same time in the early 90s. These two big rap stars who immediately blew up on a pop level.
Right.
And it felt like Vanilla Ice, once he got there, you know, there's a famous interview he did with Arsenio Hall, and they kind of go back and forth, and it's kind of tense. People felt like from the black community, he was kind of disrespectful to MC Hammer, and kind of was, you know, kind of being disgraceful to the community. Right. So now, Eminem was the first white rapper since Vanilla Ice to have this big buzz. Jimmy Iovine was behind him, Interscope, Dr. Dre was endorsing him. Yeah. So they wrote a piece in XXL about the Great White Hope, and it was really offensive. And when I got to XXL, I thought Eminem was a good rapper, first and foremost, so I wanted to squash that beef. I inherited the beef of XXL against Eminem, because the Source was always supportive of him. They gave him Unsigned Hype, they gave him Source Awards, they were down with him. So Eminem, I tried to work out a deal with Paul Rosenberg. I didn't know him back then, and nothing was going to happen at that time. And then we ended up doing an illustration dissing Eminem about like his mama spanking him. And then on Marshall Mathers' album, he says XXL, you know, a big white ass, da da da. Right. He dissed us in that. So then we had beef with Eminem for a long time. But then it switched up because Benzino woke up one day and he felt like after 8 Mile that Eminem is getting more props than he should. It's not that he isn't good. It's just that because he's white, he's reaching levels of hip hop that black artists can't. And to a certain extent, he is correct. I mean, Eminem knows he's white, and obviously he's reaching a certain audience. Yeah. He knows he's reaching a certain audience that can't connect as much to a black artist. But they took such an adversarial, personal viewpoint against him. It led to me resolving the differences with Shady and.
So you were the peacemaker, essentially.
No peacemaker. I was able to. They inherited the beef that XXL Business Wise had. Right. So I was able to take advantage of it in a lot of ways. In terms of this guy's hot to the culture, he's doing well as an artist. Now we have an avenue to cover him. And then what happened was we were already covering 50 Cent, documenting him and his rise, and being very supportive of him more than any other publication. So when he signed to Eminem, it was like, wow, okay, now what's going to happen? Is he going to not speak to us anymore? Because now he's with this guy that doesn't mess with us. Right. So if anyway, 50 kind of helped broker it, or the timing was just perfect of this guy we was already covering. So when we just negotiated to do Eminem, I just wanted 50 Cent on the cover. I want 50 Cent on the cover. They said, how do you feel about doing Eminem, Dre, and 50 Cent? Because they want to make the statement that they're this juggernaut and they're united. So that's how that relationship began.
Okay. Yeah. So now everything is all essentially.
But then I did Murder Inc. 2 months later, and everybody was mad at me like somebody's gonna die, and if they die, it's because of Elliott Wilson, and why can't you put Cameron on the cover? But nobody remembers that because Murder Inc. stopped being hot, right? And 50 Cent went on to be a huge dynamo in the fucking business. But that's the reality. Nobody remembers that. Like, all I did was cover what the culture was going on. If Murder Inc. would have stayed hot, it would have been G-Unit 1 month, Murder Inc. the next.
Exactly. So how likely is it to have a 50 on the cover now?
Well, me and 50 have a tumultuous relationship in some sense. I mean, we don't really. The thing was, all these years we never really dealt with each other directly. A lot of the business was done through Vanessa, who runs the magazine now. So 50's whole thing is, it's a whole situation back then with all these people that, did I build him or did he build us? And it's a little of both. He helped XXL's rise, and we validated him. So, of course, he's going to feel like, okay, business-wise, I'm not in business with him. Why shouldn't he own a piece of Rap Radar? So why would he give me anything? So it's like, he has his own thing. This is 50, which also built whatever. So I think at times he may say things disrespectful or draw a little jab at me, but I think he respects Rap Radar, the quality of it. But I think that 50 Cent is a businessman. And if he ain't getting a piece of it, fuck it. And he's going to choose to do things that he wants to do in the time of it. So but I'm not running out of my way to try to nurture anything relationship unless it makes sense at that time business-wise.
At the same time, I mean, couldn't you give him a little respect? And just...
No, but it seems like right now he would turn me down. But it depends on if the timing's right and it's the right project. I'm not against it.
All right.
I document whoever's hot. Whoever's the hottest at the moment, And if he takes it back and gets to the level that he was at, where he was the driving force of the culture, it's just, obviously now there could be a little bit of a look at it like F. Elliott because he's supporting Rick Ross. Because then to my mind, Rick Ross in a lot of ways is the driving force of the culture. And obviously they had their little... 1-2 back and forth.
What happened to it now? Has to be.
Well, I think everybody wants to move on because at the end of the day, you got to respect who's hot. At the end of the day. But all these artists do that. They can think Rick Ross is still a fraud, but they're gonna rhyme over Tupac back and do their own version. Why? Because that's the hot record. The flame is the flame. There's always a story that I remember 50 told us that Puffy was at a party. He was at a party with Puffy, and Puffy was all on him. This is when he first got hot. It's like in the club era. So Puffy's behind him all night bothering him. He's like, yo, Puff, why the fuck you? Give me some space. Why you on me? He's like, you the flame, playboy. I gotta stay next to the flame. I gotta stay next to the flame. And that's how rappers feel. You gotta stay next to the flame. The guy you was dissing that you were never gonna make a record with, you begging to get a 16 from now because he's the hot guy.
How should I begin this? I'm just so offended. How am I even mentioned by all these fucking beginners? I'm so appalled. I might buy them all just to show niggas how much more I have in store. Fresher than you are.